There's a man sitting alone in a narrow room where the light barely enters. The walls aren't made of concrete, but they may as well be. The ceiling isn't low, yet it feels like it's pressing down on him. Nothing is physically restraining him, but something deeper, something older than his body, keeps him exactly where he is. Anyone who sees him would think he's simply tired, or maybe sad, or maybe stuck in a phase of life that will eventually pass, but they misunderstand the truth. The truth is much darker. He feels trapped, and not trapped in a building, but trapped in existence itself. Trapped in a life that seems designed, engineered, constructed to keep him confined, limited, suffocated. From the moment he wakes, he feels it, the heaviness in his chest before he even remembers the day ahead. The sense that something invisible is closing around him, that every option is already blocked, that every path he tries to walk narrows until it forces him back to where he began. He thinks he's imagining it. He thinks something is wrong with him. But Schopenhauer would have said otherwise. Schopenhauer would have told him that he's simply perceiving the structure beneath the illusion, the architecture of life that most people are too afraid or too distracted to notice. Life feels like a prison because nature designed it that way. Not maliciously, not intentionally, but mechanically, instinctively, blindly. You were born into a body you didn't choose, with desires you didn't create, into a world that demands more from you than you can ever give. You entered a system without your consent, a system whose rules were written long before you existed, a system that cares nothing for your hopes, your dreams, or your suffering. And so you sit in that room, sensing the bars that no one else talks about, realizing that the door has been closed since the day you opened your eyes. Most people think the prison is external. They think it's the job, the money, the circumstances, the lack of opportunities. And yes, those things form walls. But the deeper prison is internal. It's the biological machinery that pushes you forward, demanding survival, demanding success, demanding conformity, demanding that you chase desires that only multiply the moment they're fulfilled. You're not free to stop wanting. You're not free to stop needing. You're not free to stop fearing loss. Nature keeps you chasing something, just out of reach, like a prisoner forced to run on a treadmill that never stops. You try to move forward in life. You try to change things, to break patterns, to escape the monotony, but every attempt feels like running in circles. You push and nothing moves. You reach and nothing comes closer. You try to climb, but each rung seems greased. Each step crumbles the moment you put your weight on it. It feels unfair, but Schopenhauer would tell you it's not unfair. It's simply how the will operates. The will wants you restless. It wants you striving. It wants you tormented by desires that never grant satisfaction. You look around and see others living with ease, progressing, achieving, experiencing opportunities you never seem to receive. Envy grows naturally. Not because you're bitter, but because life itself appears to hand out advantages like a rigged lottery. You try harder, push harder, sacrifice more, and still the door doesn't open. You feel like someone left you out of the equation, like success was assigned to others long before effort even mattered, like you were placed in the wrong position on a board game where you never had a chance of winning. The sense of failure becomes familiar, not because you lack talent or desire, but because every step forward demands 10 steps of suffering. Every little victory feels temporary, overshadowed by the next obstacle waiting at the corner. You taste progress for a moment, only to feel it dissolve in your hands as something goes wrong again. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. Life is structured to deny lasting satisfaction. Even when you win, something else collapses. When you finally breathe freely, the next tension arrives. When you think you've broken free, the walls rearrange themselves to contain you again. And so despair begins to grow. Not loud, not dramatic, but quietly, like a slow leak of hope. You wake each day not expecting anything good, but bracing for more weight, more disappointment, more invisible battles. You see the world for what it is, a cycle of striving and suffering, a machine that grinds people into exhaustion. You try to stay positive, but the positivity feels fake, forced, shallow. You try to motivate yourself, but motivation feels like a temporary illusion you can't sustain. It becomes harder to believe that life will change, because every time you tried to take control, life reminded you who has the power. Not you, not your plans, not your dreams, but nature itself, the blind force pushing everything forward, indifferent to the souls caught inside its gears. You look at the people around you, family, co-workers, strangers, and you notice something unsettling. They're trapped too. Some hide it better. Some distract themselves. Some drown the emptiness in noise or accomplishments or relationships. But beneath the surface, almost everyone feels the pressure. Almost everyone feels the confinement. Almost everyone senses the weight of existence pressing on their chest. But they pretend not to. They cling to the illusion that life is open and free, because accepting the truth would fracture them. You, however, can't pretend. You've felt the heaviness too long. You've noticed the inconsistencies. You've seen how opportunities disappear the moment you reach for them. You've seen how people promise help, but vanish when you truly need them. You've seen how effort doesn't guarantee outcome, how being good doesn't guarantee reward, how desire doesn't guarantee fulfillment. You've lived in a world where failure feels predetermined, where loss repeats itself, where each new attempt echoes the same painful pattern. You felt like life is something done to you, not something you belong to. Like you're a character in someone else's story. Like the script was written without you in mind. Like there was never a path meant for you, only walls disguised as directions. And the truth is harsh. Life often is worse than you admit. It often is unfair, cruel, indifferent. You work until your bones ache, but opportunities don't appear. You pour your heart into something, but recognition never comes. You try to overcome your past, but it follows you like a shadow that never fades. You try to escape your thoughts, but they circle you, whispering doubts, reminding you of every failure, every loss, every humiliation. You tell yourself you should be grateful. You tell yourself others have it worse. You tell yourself things might change. But deep down, something whispers, "Is this it? Is this all life has for me?" That whisper is not weakness. It's awareness. It is the moment your mind begins to see the architecture beneath existence, the design that Schopenhauer believed was never meant to liberate you, only to perpetuate the machinery of the will. Life is not here to make you happy. Life is here to make you continue, to struggle, to suffer, to desire, to fear, to chase illusions that vanish once they're touched. Life is a loop. Want, pursue, suffer, achieve, decay, repeat. A loop that doesn't end until your body stops functioning, and when it ends, the system simply replaces you with another organism bound by the same invisible chains. But awareness is where the first crack forms in the wall. Not escape, not victory, Awareness. The realization that the prison isn't made of concrete or steel, but of biological programming, unconscious desires, societal pressure, time, fear, and need. Once you see that, the walls lose some of their power. You still feel trapped, but now you understand why. You see the system for what it is, not what it pretends to be. Schopenhauer believed that freedom does not come from breaking the bars. They cannot be broken, but from stepping back far enough to see the structure clearly. When you no longer chase the illusions life uses to control you, when you no longer play the game blindly, when you stop believing that happiness is the reward waiting at the end of suffering, the will loses its grip. You still live in the prison, but the prison no longer lives in you. You begin to detach from expectations. You stop comparing your life to the lives of others, because you understand their successes are simply different expressions of the same machinery. You stop believing life owes you anything, because you see that nature does not negotiate. Not with you, not with anyone. You stop chasing desires that brought you nothing but suffering, because you finally recognize that satisfaction is temporary by design. You stop blaming yourself for circumstances you never controlled. You stop mourning opportunities that were never meant for you. And as you pull away from the illusions, something subtle begins to shift. The walls don't disappear, but they soften. The despair doesn't vanish, but it quiets. The need for external validation fades. The envy dissolves. The endless pressure to succeed weakens. The deep ache of failure becomes less personal, more structural. You stop fighting life as if it's your enemy and begin observing it as if you are a witness, not a prisoner. You begin to understand that the only freedom you can have is inner freedom, the freedom that comes from detachment, from clarity, from refusing to let the will own you completely. It's not escape, but transcendence. Not victory, but illumination. Not freedom from suffering, but freedom from identification with suffering. The man in the narrow room lifts his head. Nothing around him has changed. The walls are still there. The window is still barred. The air is still heavy. But something inside him has shifted. He sees the structure now. He sees that the prison was never personal. It was never about him being a failure or life being cruel specifically to him. It was the architecture of existence itself. And when he sees that, he breathes for the first time without expectation, without illusion, without the burden of believing he must achieve what nature never promised, without the weight of believing he is behind in a race he never agreed to run. Life still surrounds him. The trap still exists, but he no longer feels like prey. He feels like a witness to the machinery, not a slave to it. And in that awareness, there is a form of peace. Not happiness, not joy, but a quiet acceptance that removes the sting of failure. Because now he knows. He wasn't meant to win the game. He was meant to see through it. And once you see through it, the walls, though still present, no longer define you. If you understand this, if you've ever felt the weight of the world as a structure closing in on you, if you've ever felt trapped in life's repetitive suffering, write in the comments, "I see the structure now." Because once you see it, you are no longer just a prisoner. You become the one who finally understands why the door was never meant to open, and why understanding this truth is the only escape nature cannot take from you.